Good day. It's Tuesday afternoon, the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, and the joke was on me today because when I started recording this segment I took a photo rather than pressing the video record button. So this is what it looks like before, or what it looked like before, and you've seen the process of me taking off the hoops and the bamboo canes, which are just lying to my left now. So this is our brassica bed, and some of these are going to flower, and the bees and other pollinators may as well benefit from that. And what I'm going to do now is just go in and give that bed a bit of a weed. Let's have a closer look. Not too many weeds, considering it's been covered for since the end of October, maybe beginning of November. There's a few grasses that have germinated there, a few other weeds. There's a verbascum here which I'm going to leave. There's another one over here in there which I'm going to leave. I can see quite a few marjoram around here that have self-seeded, but yeah, it's I'm just going to get in and weed them, and as you can see, you know, these are just about to start flowering, and as I say, will be a wonderful source of pollen for bees, hoverflies and other pollinators. Oh yeah, and look, we had a look, my next door neighbour here, new next door neighbour from last year. They were just one down. Look, she's got these grape hyacinth and have just put that box around them, which makes them look rather gorgeous, I think. I mean, they're gorgeous anyway, but yes. Oh, so happy days, nets off. It's pretty blustery today though. As I say that, it seems to have died down a bit, and I'm hoping that the broad beans, which are strengthening up quite nicely, will just continue doing so. They'll obviously not get the protection that they had from the netting here. This is where the prevailing wind comes from, and that netting was certainly helping these broad beans from being buffeted by strong winds, though hopefully they'll have strengthened up enough now to bear more buffeting. And of course there's lots on these to harvest as well. I mean, there's lots of leaf on here to harvest. This is dazzling blue kale. So yeah, I'm just going to get in there and do some weeding. This isn't couch grass, it's just a weed grass, so it's got no trailing roots. It's quite shallow rooted, as you can see. Weeds over here. Not too many weeds. I mean, obviously the netting has saved too many seeds from falling on here and germinating. And some couch grass, which you might not be able to see down here. Maybe you can see the roots on that, lateral roots coming in from the side of the bed. That's this bed given a little weed. I've left in about 5 self-seeded marjoram, which self-seed, this is the marjoram here. They self-seed from there. I've left in the 2 verbascum, there's one there and there's one over there. And now I want to get in some Taunton Deane cuttings. There's one you can see there, there's the other there. They both came off this plant here. Of the 4 cuttings I took, 2 survived. No, 1 died and 1 I gave away, that's right, so 3 survived. And this cutting itself was taken from a fellow plotter who I gave a cutting of Taunton Deane to about 4 years ago. So in some ways these 2 Taunton Deane are coming home, which I think is rather nice. But they'll be much happier in the ground, so that's what I'm going to do this very moment. Here's one of the self-seeded marjoram there. Making the hole a little bit bigger, or pulling up the soil and loosening it around so that the roots from what I'm doing can go in. You can see the roots are quite nice, hopefully. Just open them up a little, in it goes. It's going in a little bit deeper than it was in the pot. Brassicas like to be really firm and they don't mind going in a little bit deeper, so really firming that in. Gosh, hopefully you can see that with all the shadow and the sun. Now for the other one. Right, those have both had a decent watering in, and I will water in again in about 15 minutes. What I'm going to do between now and then is a plastic pick on my plot, because I can see down here there's some plastic. Seems to be a lot of plastic blowing around this year. Really does seem to be a lot. That's it for this Tuesday segment of A Week at the Plot, the first segment of the week. I can't believe that I didn't press the right button when I started filming taking the brassica nets off, because I thought, oh, that will be a really good graphic, you know, the unraveling that, taking the pegs out, taking the posts out, you know. And yeah, so I took the pegs out, I took the nets off, and then I thought, did I actually press the record button, or did I press the take a photo button? And yeah, there we are. Never mind. I'll look at the other Taunton Deane in this raised bed here later in the week, or maybe next week. Well, later in the week, I think, because I'd like to get carrots and parsnips sown. So yeah, the reason I've put those Taunton Deane in the middle of the bed is just like Brussels sprouts, they actually get quite big. So when I do net them later in the year, I want to make sure that they're in the middle of the bed so that they're easier to net, basically. That's why I have done that. The ones that we've got growing in the poly at the moment, we've got 3 Brussels and 4 Portuguese cabbage stroke dazzling blue kale cross. I will think about what I'm thinking, go through my process. I'm thinking of not doing so many brassicas this year. I was looking at the beds that I've got around, and I was saying, right, this will go there and that'll go there. And then I got to a point and I thought, where's lettuce going? Where are courgettes going? I know where I thought courgettes were going to go, but should they really go there? And then I'm also thinking of the bit by the blueberries, opening that area up so that I can do squash there, because I think that would be a good area to do squash. It's not an area I traverse a lot, and it's an area that needs to be sorted out. I've been wanting to sort it out for quite a long time. So yeah, that's what That's what I'm thinking of doing. I'm thinking of opening up that area. Yeah, my mind's all over the place. I've also put in the perennial peas. I've put them at the side of the shed here. And I've also put one at the side of the greenhouse as well. So we'll see how those do. I noticed they were looking a little bit pale. I don't think they were enjoying the heat of the greenhouse. So we'll see how they come on. I'd hate for them to die now that we've got them through the winter. Though I do have more seeds, so maybe I could put some seeds in as well. Yeah, I'll think about that. Right, I'm going to leave it here for this segment of A Week at the Plot. This April segment, April Fool's Day segment, though it is past midday, so we should be okay now. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. It's a rather blustery day, but we're at Kew, mainly to be amidst the blossom. I love that big green one there. It's got a fabulous flower which you might not be able to see in this, but it's another prunus. I'll try and put a photo of the flower in here. It's just lovely though. Richard taking photos, some in bloom, some not yet, like that one there. Yeah, lovely, but look at that. And Richard, of course. Right, see you later. As we were walking up to this area, I wondered why it was cordoned off, and it's because there's snake's head fritillary naturalizing here. White and purple, not sure if you can see. I mean, this will be a wonderful area. In a couple of years' time, maybe you can see more of them over there. They really are gorgeous. I think we saw some in the woodland area a few weeks ago. And we're going back into magnolias now, and I'm not sure if you can see through the branches, there's a cream coloured one through there. Can you see that? That looks rather lovely. Let's have a closer look. So we're at this creamy coloured yellow one, which is really quite magnificent. It's not really in flower yet. Let's go in on this one. Look at that. Quite magnificent, that colour. Hopefully this, oh, look at that. Lovely. Lovely. This really is a glorious one. I think we need to find the name of that one. It's over there. I'll go and take a photo. So this one's called Yellow Lantern. Look at that. That's glorious against the blue. I think this is becoming rather swiftly my favourite magnolia. Though there is one across the road that from our home that is just glorious too. Anyway. Look, white there. Gosh, this is very, very fragile, this one, with small, well, large petals, but not very many. Yeah, I do rather love magnolias. Anyway, onwards. I was going back to Richard, who's chatting to two people, very unusual for that to happen. And I saw this view of the fritillaries. I mean, it really is lovely. Well, they really are lovely. This area, look at the sun and the shade as well. Glorious. Really will be spectacular if these proliferate around this area. We're in this area that we were in a few weeks ago, where there's a few borders under trees. This is where the guy was working last week or a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of prongs of forks being put into the ground, or maybe an aerator has gone in to aerate this. And the beds, I'm not totally sure about these beds that sort of appear. I mean, they're lovely, but I'm not quite sure they work for me. I mean, the beds themselves do work for me, and the planting and all of that, but within what is ostensibly woodland, they feel a little bit odd to me. Maybe like little islands, maybe they're island paradises. Look at that magnolia over there. Anyway, oh, big tree time, and little tree time as well. We're going this way to find a bench to have our little snack and a cup of tea. We've just had our little snacky picnic on that bench, looking out at this view of the lake, which is looking incredibly tidy, much tidier than normal. I guess they have a sort of 10-year rotation, or you know, however many years rotation of doing particular jobs, and it looks as though enhancing and clearing the lake has been one of them for the winter. So there's lots of geese around here. Richard's just down there. We wanted to get some ducks, and it's just glorious. I mean, it really is. Kew is well worth the membership fee. It really is, especially if you can get here as frequently as we do, which is generally once every 4 to 6 weeks. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to carry on wandering, and I'll see you soon for another segment of A Week at the Plot. And I'll likely be at the plot. Bye. Good day. It's Sunday morning, and I think it's about 9 o'clock, maybe 9:30, something like that. And actually, I am going to take you on a bit of a time travel moment very shortly. You may remember I have been going on about sorting out the front of the plot for years. It has never really been sorted since I took on this half of the plot 5 years ago. Must be 5 years ago now, and I've just had it covered. I have forked it over at one point, or half of it I forked over, but then I just covered it up and just haven't got round to sorting it out. And this year I was absolutely determined that I was going to sort it out. And I was down here after Kew Gardens on Wednesday, and I did strimming. And I was really pleased with the strimming that I did. I still need to do a little bit more, but I was pleased with what I'd done. And then I was looking at that area, and I thought, I know, I'm going to pull up the cover that's there and see what's underneath. And as I started to pull it up, I thought, hang on, let's turn the camera on. So I did. Well, it's actually Wednesday afternoon, and I decided on a whim, right, that plastic sheet is coming up. There's another one under here, and there's another one on the other side of the Cardoon. but I just thought I would get in here and see what I have to deal with. Let's just take a little bit of a closer look. It's not too bad, actually. Yeah, not too bad. Lots of bindweed. Not surprisingly, there's some cinquefoil. There's obviously all this grass. I'd really like a path. Well, not like. I'm going to put a path down here. It's pretty breezy today. How's it under this bit? Yeah, a bit the same really. Well, I think what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to concentrate later this week on forking this area over, tidying this bit up to put a path in. I mean, I may not do all of this week, and then it would be sensible to move these over, and maybe until I can find another place. These are our blueberries. Move them over so that they're actually next to the bins, and then that would give me a path here which at least will follow down from my path here. I did notice the other day I got this so wonky. Can you see that? It's sort of narrower this end than it is that end. That's this bed, but never mind. Wonky bed. Yeah, the mood took me. I actually have strimmed, and then I thought, yeah, let's prepare myself for what is a job, the next major job to do. After that little bit of time warping, I'm bringing you back up to date. So I was down here yesterday without the camera because I just wanted to crack on with that front area, and I'm pleased that I did. Let me just show you where we are today. Quite a bit of work done yesterday afternoon, and this area, even though it's not ready for planting yet, it's not far from it. So after moving the blueberries, which are topped up onto the wheelbarrow over there and just underneath it, I put edging of a decking board there, a decking board there, and a decking board along the front here. And then with my spade, I went along and sliced into it, as you've seen me do when I was starting this side of the plot. And after I'd sliced down all around, I then went in with my fork and gave this a really good forking over. Not my hand fork, but the big fork. And lots of bindweed and cinquefoil came out of this area. I mean, really lots. These are 2 tubs that I left here last night as I was just exhausted. There was another one which has gone into a perennial compost bin. These 2 will also go into perennial weed bins to compost down because there's so much perennial weed in there. This will need another forking over, there's no doubt about it, and I'm sure I'll find more weed as I do that, but at least it's on the way to being usable. And then I'll just need to keep on top of weeding, which is what I'm trying to do as I go along this year. And I pulled up the other black tarp that was covering this area. Underneath was more bindweed and more nettles, which I've pulled out. So again, I'm going to try and clear this area and keep on top of this area and put the blueberries back, but I might put them onto slabs if I can find slabs to put them on. I do have 2 I can use. I then carried on with this area, which you may remember was completely grass ridden the other day, and I was flagging, my energy was flagging as I was doing this area. but I'm pleased that I got done what I could get done. There are still weeds in here, particularly cinquefoil, which I can see there's some cinquefoil, lots of cinquefoil along the edging here with their deep tap roots. So, and then I went into this cardoon with my hands and gave that a really good weed. I didn't weed this area here, but I did put that sink, so that sink is now in position, and I weeded that sink as well. I potted on this buddleia there. It didn't like it at first, but it's quite happy with it now. So the next area that will have some major work on it is going to be this side. So I've done half of it basically, or 2/3 of the front is done. Now I need to sort out the other third, but that is going to wait for some time. I'm just really glad to have got on top of this area, because as I said earlier in the week, or maybe as I said earlier in the week or last week, this is where I want to put some squash this year. And if I keep on top of weeding and can see into the cardoon, I can make sure we don't have too many slugs and snails in there. So yeah, happy with the work done on pulling up the covering on Wednesday afternoon and then getting stuck in here for a couple of hours yesterday afternoon. That was Saturday afternoon. Happy days indeed. I do feel pretty chuffed with myself because I've got on and sorted out quite a few neglected beds this year so that we can grow in them. I've got a lot of seed sowing to do in April, and I'll be getting on with sowing some beetroot in modules later on today. There'll be D. Chioggia variety, which we really like, as do the squirrels. And then we'll do some more seed sowing next week. The rocket and the outrageous lettuce that we sowed last week, they have germinated in the greenhouse and they're growing absolutely fine. So that is really, really good. But yeah, neglected beds, the only really 2 areas of neglect at the moment, 3 areas if I'm honest, which I am, is the bit that we've just looked at, the third, by the pond, which interestingly has no life in it this year, that pond by the corner. It's done really well since we put it in, but this year no spawn, no frogs, no newts, nothing. So I need to think about that. Why is that like that? Then we've got in front of me outside the shed here, we have the flower border bed, which is overridden by weeds and cinquefoil. It's very much a spring and early summer bed anyway. So I was thinking as I was coming down here, maybe get on with that middle of summer, something like that. But in the meantime, pull out grasses, as many grasses as I can. Where we do have things in pots, I'm going into those pots and giving them a really good weed so that they don't become overridden with weed. And then at the back, behind our 1940 shed and our slightly less decrepit shed than it was a few years ago, we have an area there that I really need to get on top of. But it's not a growing area, it's an area that is a wildlife area. At the moment the wildlife is quite happy down there, the foxes are travelling down there, the hedgehogs are travelling down there, but I need to neaten it up a bit whilst not disturbing the wildlife. So that is a bit neglected at the back, but those are the only 3 neglected areas now on the whole plot. And of those, none are food cultivation areas. So actually I'm now on top of the food cultivation areas of the plot, so rather chuffed with myself, maybe smugly chuffed as well, which is not a good thing, but yeah, very pleased. Right, I'm going to leave it there for this week's A Week at the Plot. Had some downtime at Kew and some lovely time. Had quite a lot of hard work as well doing stuff this week. And I'm so pleased to have finally broken the back of me getting on with the front area, because each time I've come down, it's been like, oh, I need to sort that out. Oh, I need to sort that out. In sorting that out, I have put a wheelbarrow with the blueberries in an area which is stopping a pathway, which is blocking a pathway. I put the netting and some of the netting from the brassicas and some other of those bean poles, not bean poles, brassica poles and things, onto another path. So that needs to be cleared, which I will do later on this afternoon. So I will open up my paths again, because I am really finding that being able to traverse my plot in various different ways is really, really useful for me, and it's helping me keep my head clear, because I'm also not avoiding areas anymore. I'm using all of the pathways, and as I go down the pathways and walk around, I'm looking at the beds and I think, oh, that needs a weed, so I'm putting it on my list and making sure that that gets done within a day or so. So yeah, keep those pathways clear. They really, or that job of keeping them clear really is helping me, and I'm sure it would help you too. I know Vivi, you know, when Vivi had her plot, the pathways were very defined, and I think that really does help. I think it helped her and it helps me. So yeah, there we are. I won't waffle on any longer. Any comments, any questions, any suggestions, please do leave them down below. If you're on Coffee, obviously you'll get the full upload a day before everybody else as early access. And whatever you are doing in your garden, your growing space, or your allotment, I hope you are moving forward, whether that's putting things to bed or getting things really going. I know that Greta in Newfoundland, she's had another snowfall, so her beds are covered in snow again. We saw that on Planet Vegetaria yesterday, and where she lives is, the views are just stunning, and how Greta grows with such a short growing season and gets so much out of her plot. I think it's astonishing, and I applaud Greta. So I'll put a link in here to Greta's channel, so please do watch Greta. She's fabulous, and occasionally you get a view of whales going across her bay as well, which is lovely. I've got ducks flying across the plot here as I say that. Quite different to whales. Right, I will see you very soon. And whatever you're doing, happy growing. Bye.